So here's part 2 for Vanagon, tips and fixes. In case you didn't see it, there's a part 1, so you can look up Vanagon tips and fixes part 1 under the channel kind of homesteading. All right, thanks.
But go ahead and do it anyways. So let's see what else we got. Okay, another tip is down below, your oil filter is on the bottom here. It's on the bottom left. Yeah, mine is black. It's a Mahle German Mahle oil filter. It's they make one for the Vanagons. Let's see, do I have well, you can go on websites and see what the number is. All I can see is, oh, Mann. This is Mann. I think it's the same company. Mahle and Mann are the same company. But it's like a higher flow oil filter for the Vanagon engines. A common problem with these engines is that people find is that they have low oil pressure. And so you can get those specific, there's a filter that's just, I guess it's original OEM for these engines, the Mahle or Mann oil filter, and they're usually black. I have seen them in different colors, but they give you a higher oil flow, so you get higher oil pressure, so you'll have a stronger engine. And then people also recommend going to a thicker oil than suggested, the normal. So I think in this one, what I added was 1540. I believe that's what they suggest, is to go up to a heavier weight oil that will give you higher oil pressure. So I gave it that heavier oil. Another common one is, and I actually still haven't done this, but it's not that, well actually it can be expensive for the O2 sensor, which is right here in the back. It's really easy to get to. This is going to be a 3-wire O2 sensor. It's this is actually in the catalytic converter. I do believe that is a catalytic converter, but it's the only O2 sensor that I know of. So it's before the muffler, and so they are a little bit more spendy than average, but I've seen them for as low as like $30 on eBay. And so the wires, they generally have like they're a long wire. They have like about 3 feet, 2+ feet, and so you have 2 connections here to disconnect it. One of the wires, I believe, is a heater wire, so that's why it has 3 wires, is because I think this one's a heater. It heats the O2 sensor, and this is just your connection. So I don't have any check engine lights, and my vehicle runs great right now, so I haven't replaced my O2 sensor yet. But I've heard a lot of people say that when you do, it will run better, it will start easier, run better, and give you improved gas mileage. So if I have any more problems, I am going to replace that O2 sensor, so that would actually be pretty easy to do. So let's see, any other parts? Of course, your air filter, if you don't know what it looks like, it's a round one. So in case you haven't got yours off and you're just going to go buy it online, it's a round air filter, and of course that will help it run better if yours is really old and dirty. This is the old one. It's not even that dirty, but I just gave it a new one anyways. Or you can blow it out with air, but it is good to have a clean air filter, so it comes off with these snaps. I mean, there's probably a lot of, I didn't know what I was doing when I first started, so I'm just showing things that I figured out. There are 3 or 4 of these clips that lift up. It can be kind of confusing. One side hinges up and it unhooks the box, and so the top of the box will come off, including this big one up top here that attaches to the body. So they're like they're like that, like a lever style, and they hook in. They can get, okay, so it can be confusing. So this part here would go back into this metal hook on the body, and so they're hooks that they go like that. They hinge up and down. But that would be a real easy starting point. There's also, if you take this air intake boot off, you're going to reveal your throttle plate down here, which is right here. And so inside here, you can clean that off with a throttle body cleaner, and scrub that off with a toothbrush and use some rags. So you have to take this boot off, which you'll also have to take the air intake box and this air intake hose off to get that into that. But cleaning that off can help it from sticking. The throttle plate can stick and not want to move if it's all gunky and dirty in there. So that's an easy one to do. It's an easy fix. But yeah, definitely. So I also, one thing I encountered, if you want to look for problems, is like this connection here. You see it's got new electrical tape on it. This actually goes to the distributor, and the connections were exposed and they might have been shorting out the wires. So I actually bought a new pigtail for that, and it was one of my first soldering jobs. So I cut it back, I got the pigtail, cut the old one off, and I soldered the wires together. And you want to cover them first with shrink wrap before you tape it up like this. So that was my first solder job, and using shrink wrap on my own vehicle. I've actually worked in shops before, so I've done it there, but on my own projects, this is my first one. So that, look for, and it's common in these, the Vanagons are known to have wiring that goes bad. So like I can tell by looking at these ones that they're fine. It's going to be the ones that were more subjected to heat. Like this brown wire right here is a wire to the oil pressure sensor underneath the engine, and there are places on it where I have actually replaced it somewhere. I can't remember. Somebody else did this. They crimped it, but it gets heated and it can crack and short out, and if the wires get exposed and stuff. So that's a big one. Here's a place where I just put tape over it to protect it. I think it's in a place where it gets hot. So these are known to have wires that crack, and the plastic covering comes off of the wiring and exposes them. They can short out and have all sorts of problems and corrode more, because now they can get exposed to moisture. So you want to check all of your wires that are exposed that you can see, and look for the plastic coming off, cracking, corroded wires exposed and sticking out. And you're going to want to replace the wiring and places that you can, and I'd recommend soldering, not just crimping. So solder your wires. Let's see, as far as basic stuff that can be wrong, that's and so I think another one is, so for the screw here, the air adjustment screw, I've heard people say that you go all the way clockwise, and then you go somewhere between, to open it up you go counterclockwise, and to start out you go about 4 full revolutions up to 8 full revolutions, and that's where you want to start out, and plus or minus depending on it. I think you can get it to a point where if it's in really bad shape you can actually kill the engine. So somewhere between 4 and 8 counterclockwise screws open from shut, which would be all the way clockwise, will get you started for testing it out. I have had it all the way off, so in case you're wondering, if you wanted to screw it all the way out, it can just come out. There's no springs, there's no, from what I can remember, it wasn't, nothing fell apart or it wasn't problematic. There's also another, maybe I actually have done this. You take off the, this is the throttle adjuster, and idle, yeah, so this whole unit, I had this off, believe it or not. This it's the throttle body housing. You could take it off. After you take this boot off, you can take this throttle body housing off. You have to disconnect the spring and this rod, which connects to the gas pedal, and you can take off this throttle body, and it screws into the air intake manifold, and underneath it there's a way to adjust the throttle body plate. Let me see if you can hear. It's supposed to click a certain way, so let me see. Listen for a quiet click. See that click? That's good. It's supposed to be, just you move it a little bit, click, off, click, and you go all the way to the full throttle, and you hear another click. the one click, and then there's the other click, and then it'll go back and it'll click again. Okay, so I adjusted for that because sometimes that can get out of adjustment and it doesn't click right. So, and then open. So I believe they can get so bad that you might just want to replace the whole thing, but that would be, I think they're quite expensive. But I was able to adjust mine. I took it apart. You know, if you're trying to figure out problems, I mean, I think that has to do with idle. So if it doesn't click right, you can have it poor running, or maybe not even starting at all if you don't have it clicking right. So the click should be off now, and you just move it a little bit. So that's because it's idle, it will be sitting here, and then when it clicks, it tells the computer that you're giving it gas because it's time to go give it more fuel. And so an idle, you don't need a lot of fuel. So if you don't have that click, it's probably giving it too much fuel because it's telling it that it's driving, like it's telling it that your foot is on the gas pedal. So anyways, I think I covered just about everything I could think of back here. Up front, I actually have messed around. Maybe I'll do another video on wiring and stuff up front on the battery and stuff. But for right now, we'll just go with that. Hope this helps.